All right. Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. Welcome to today's weekly market check-in with myself, Greta Wall. I'm your host, and I'm joined by David Prince, the leader of T3 Live's Inner Circle virtual trading floor. David, how is your Thursday going so far?
Good. Big rally. Thank God we're a
Mhm.
part of it. No complaints.
Yeah, good stuff. All right. So, the topic of our stream today is how to trade this market, and that's what we're going to be discussing today. How the inner circle has been navigating this environment as things change on the daily, it seems. And David and his group have been really on top of things and in front of things, ready for things to happen versus chasing them after the fact. So, David, on that note, the first thing I wanted to talk about was yesterday's big rally. There was no FOMO happening in the inner circle for yourself or members because you guys were set up for that coming into the day. You weren't trying to chase stocks up after the fact. Of course, the rally on Tuesday and then the bigger rally yesterday and then continuing today. Talk about how you in the inner circle set yourself up for yesterday's action and then how you managed that to take profits at the right time versus trying to chase stocks after the fact.
I'd say the best way is to kind of measure likelihood of ideas. No one knows what's going to happen, but after having a rather glorious bounce on the Qs from 405 to 465, 467, I think you didn't have to be really a genius to figure out there might be some back and fill and a pullback. So the question was really, where do you get long when we do have that pullback? So we had about 5, 6 days in a row of very ugly action. And I said on Inner Circle on Monday, I said, boy, I've seen way worse days, but it feels more hopeless than I can remember. Like just everything feels awful and no one wants to buy. And this is really when I'm supposed to buy. Like this is exactly when typically I get paid if I'm a buyer. So you look at the Qs in the middle of the range, would be smack into the high 420s, low 430s. There was a level of 437. Then if that didn't hold, there was a level of 422. And I said simply, listen, I don't know exactly where we're going to stop, but I think we bounced pretty hard before we retest new lows. I don't think we're just going back to 402. I don't think, SPY's just going back to lows from 2 weeks ago. And I think we have to get long. So I said the way to do it is we don't need too many vehicles here because everything's going to trade together. So I focused on the Qs via TQQ, low 40s. And, I didn't know if we turned Monday, Tuesday. I just knew in my gut that we'd have a pretty strong rally back to 450, 460 on the Qs before we were to ever revisit new lows. And the way we did it is really buying when it felt a bit hopeless, like there was absolutely no reason to buy. And it worked out. I didn't think it would work out this well, but it did.
It definitely did. Yesterday morning, coming into the day, you do a morning call every day for the inner circle, and for members of the inner circle, it's really their blueprint for the day, what they need to be focused on, levels, etc. In yesterday's morning call, you were very clear on the fact of telling everyone, do not rush to short this rally. Do not try to chase this rally either. We need to kind of sit back, be comfortable in the positions that we're in, and see really where the market direction is
Right.
from
If you get
here.
a dip, do some buying, but not to chase it.
Right. And of course not too aggressively short just because you think the rally is too big. As you and I have discussed many times, some of the most vicious rallies happen in these bear markets, and we're definitely seeing that. So when it came to Scott Bessent's, the Treasury Secretary's presser yesterday, that was kind of the big thing that you were focused on for the morning to see where the market direction would be. What was it that he said in that? I heard you tell the room, "Oh, we're going higher from here. We're going to highs from here." What was it during that that was the signal for you that that's the market direction we were headed for?
It was how the market was responding to a
Responding.
very unimpressive conference. He
Hmm.
was not really being friendly. He was not giving us a lot to suggest that we were about to have a deal with China. And although the rhetoric was backed away from, and although our president was less aggressive in his tone, it was still a much less bullish or dovish type of conference than what we expected. We thought he might be changing the game and talking about flooding the market and with money, and somehow, I didn't think it would all be about the IMF, but it felt like there would be a lot more about fiscal change and how he was going to maybe backstop the market in his own way away from the Fed. And it wasn't. There was nothing particularly bullish. The market pulled back off highs, but nothing too aggressive. We still closed up over 2%. And even as he was speaking, I was like, if this was so negative, like the way it sounds, the Qs should almost be flat right now. And they weren't. And old school traders love to say price is truth. I was like, if anything, I'm more bullish, but I also know I'm not shorting this because this is not a market to get in front of. The market's not responding to the downside the way it might have a week ago. So that was what I got. It was how we reacted to what was kind of a negative speech conference.
Like you mentioned, the market's not responding to the downside like it was a week ago. I think we've definitely seen a change in the direction of the market when it comes to news-based reactions. Any hint of good news, it feels like the market is just ready to rip off, even just a little bit. And then bad news is not as damaging to
for the last 2 days. Absolutely not. I mean, overnight, China basically called her president a liar, right? And we see the response. Although right now, I think there's news they chatted, so who knows? It's fluid.
Ever changing on the hour. How hard does that make it to manage positions for yourself, swings, especially when it comes to this market and how things can change just so rapidly, especially holding things overnight?
If you focus on companies you believe in, not fluff and chasing headlines, you're okay. Like if you focus on buying companies you believe in at the right price, you're okay. It's difficult on the short side. Shorting rallies that maybe you have to wonder, is he about to put a post on Truth Social that's going to like destroy your day? That gets difficult. Laying out shorts that you don't really have a concrete longer term horizon on, where you think, fundamentally something's broken, you can really get hurt. So it makes it hard to put out shorts, without a doubt, because it's so, a headline can kill your day.
Yeah. Outside of the China news, part of what helped out the market was the Trump administration, Trump himself, especially backing off the attacks on Powell, the threat against Powell and his job.
Yeah,
what do you think it was in? Yeah. What do you think it was in the market that made Trump make that move? Do you think just the cooler heads are prevailing, the bestest of the administration over other hawks in the administration?
I'd say Besant, Lutnick, these guys are like, you're never going to build confidence in the markets by calling our Fed chairman a loser and threatening his job. I said that is the antithesis of what the markets are looking for. If you don't change your tone, maybe he figured it out on his own. Odds are no, but at some point, hey, the markets need to feel like something is not out of your control. The more they feel like things are out of control, the less they're going to be comfortable. And when they actually are hearing stories about how you actually might fire a Fed chairman and then seeing articles, wait, is it legal? Is it not legal? Is it possible? Yeah. No one wants to invest in that. So someone clearly, and I said on Monday, I said, he's going to have to, I even said this. I said he might have to find Jesus. I don't know if someone's going to pull him by his hair to make him find Jesus, or if he will on his own, but he can't continue at this pace and expect the markets not to implode. So either on his own or his administration, someone said, hey, dude, you got to pull back here.
All right, let's talk about earnings. We've gotten some big earnings this week. The biggest report so far this week has been Tesla, and the inner circle was hands off on the Tesla report. Tesla's report coming in worse than expected, but at that point, the whisper numbers were way worse than the analyst estimates, and so the market, I think, was definitely expecting worse than the analyst numbers. Why did the inner circle not take puts or anything into this report, knowing that it would be so bad? Well, why were you hands off?
Well, I always say it like this. If it was so easy, I'd be doing this interview from St. Bart's and very rarely be chatting with you, and probably just, I don't know, be doing retired. With something so telegraphed and everyone knows what the news is going to be, it's very hard to profit off of it. It's just, that's why it's still a job. So there is no one in their right mind who didn't know it was a really, really tough quarter for Tesla, right? I mean, it just was. We have protests. We have people calling him Hitler. We have people in France getting naked and running down the street and calling him, awful names. So yes, sales are going to slow down. On top of it, they were already getting beat to the punch in China and really losing market share there. And I wouldn't say companies are catching up here, but they're certainly offering decent product. So if everyone knows this news in advance, sellers that don't believe in the company, that are not about robo-taxis, that are not about Optimus, that are short-term players, they've de-risked. They're not in. So it's going to have to be like fraudulent type of quarter, or it's going to have to be outrageously bad to move it further south because everyone already knew. So in that type of environment, you're either bet the other side, like what if it's not as bad as they think, or you do nothing because it's a seller's print. Option players make money. So I said, let me not be one of those suckers. I could miss some downside if it's even worse. The quarter was even worse and the stock still went up. It was just too well telegraphed, and thus there was nothing to do but sell premium and be an option seller, not a buyer.
Tesla stock still moving up today, moved up yesterday, and now up almost 5% in today's session. One big thing that came out of the Tesla earnings call was Musk saying his time at Doge will slow down, I think, next month?
Yeah,
so
like 1 to 2 days a week, slow down.
Right.
As
so
needed.
For investors, they're like, okay, maybe he'll focus back here on this company, one of the billions of companies he has, it seems, at this point. Do you think that was the big catalyst, or there's just one?
No, I think everyone knew. I think that helped maybe keep the stock up, but I don't think the stock was going to implode because it was so tight.
Yeah. So looking at Tesla here over 255, what's your read on Tesla in the weeks ahead, the days ahead?
Everyone's so negative. I think it'll creep up a little bit more and then ultimately revisit that low 200 area. But I do think without having, and he talked about Optimus and like some wild numbers with millions of robots sold, but I think he gave the date of 2030 or something. So, I think we're in 2025. I'm sometimes out of it, but pretty sure it's 2025. And I just, when things go bad in the market, narrative is cute, but 2030 is a ways away. So I think right now he's going to do something concrete, give us some real numbers where analysts can raise numbers because of robot. Hell, he could sell a lot more tequila, or I don't know, the kid's tricycle that looks like a Tesla, just something that infers numbers will stop going down and they'll go back up. And I think ultimately to get the stock above 300, you're going to need something like that, or else any pullback in the market, I think it'll be back to the low 200s yet again.
I know someone sent you that Tesla tequila. What's your review on the Tesla tequila?
I didn't try it. You're lying. I'm going to
try it.
It looks awesome. In the meantime, it looks
it looks cool.
And it got me to buy it, and I think it went up like 50 points in a couple of weeks. So it was a great present.
All right. Did you actually buy a Cybertruck?
Yes, but it's a long story, but not, it was with me. Now it's having stuff done. So it'll be here eventually.
All right. So we can't get your review on the Cybertruck yet because with it being wrapped, I assume.
Something like that.
All right. He's going to make it look cool. He's going to put an inner circle logo on the side. Okay. Another earnings report I wanted to get your opinion on, and it's asked about it on the YouTube chat, is Netflix. Netflix was the first big tech earnings that we kind of got for the market. A weird day because we got it after the market closed on Thursday. That was really a Friday. The market was closed on Friday, so I'm going to get the response. So, a mess. Not a mess. I mean, the stock has done well since the earnings report, but just traders didn't get to trade it the next morning. So what's your response? What's your read on the Netflix report and how the stock has been behaving since?
So the read through ahead of time was, what a wonderful place to hide that's not going to be affected by tariffs, that has a growing business, that has this new niche of growth that is live sports, and a good lineup ahead. And we got the what's the crazy show with the girl and everyone's getting killed? Anyway, the Asian show, I'm forgetting. But you got that great lineup coming up, and you got the final season of the wild show that everyone gets killed on. How do I not remember that show's name? What's
I
the name
can't think of the name either.
Anyway, someone write it into us. But so the setup was nice, and then you get the numbers, right? And the numbers were by far excellent numbers. They weren't willing to raise guidance, but they gave some clear indication that business continues to build, that advertising builds, that people aren't trading down, which we've always said, most of the people on the street that like, hey, do you really trade down from Netflix? It's kind of a must-have at that price point. So they proved that the narrative was exactly correct and that it's a stock that really should be bought on dips. Sure enough, it didn't go too far because I don't think it wanted to pay maybe short-term option players and take out some premium. And then, a day or two later, like right now, it's flying and has finally made new highs and continues higher. And I'm proud to say Rick, who never misses Netflix, is in it, and half of Inner Circle's in it, and it's done really well. But great quarter. Solid guidance, not willing to raise guidance, but certainly nothing negative. There was one mention, I'm forgetting, that was a slight negative, but everyone's overlooking. I can't remember what it was, but you really can't pick things apart. Valuation is not cheap anymore, but it's not egregious, and business is strong. And they didn't lower any expectations. So anyone that loved Netflix before probably loved it more, or at least the same after that print.
All right, Netflix at 1,100, I assume not where you want to buy, or you would want anyone would want to buy. Where's your spot that?
Right, you had a classic breakout above that becomes support, right? So the previous high, 1,064, that is now going to be your new support. So you get a pullback into there. That would be your first area you'd look at. But beyond that, it's also stretched from the 21 day. So you got to be cognizant that short term, we just had a monstrous move. And by the way, all the way from 800 just 4 weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
So forget what it's done just recently. It's moved 300 points since the mid-April.
Right.
Pretty insane.
Well, a lot of the rest of the market was not moving in that direction.
So that the all-time high previous to today would be your first spot you'd look at.
Question, are the gold mining stocks consolidating, or is the run for gold over for now? And we'll talk about what you did with GLD this week as well.
Richard, my gut is it was a short-term top, and they kind of showed us that the day before gold turned over, they were showing some consolidation and maybe some distribution. The way I played it is I chose to say it's a blow-off top near term, and I'm going to short the hell out of gold. That was my biggest trade this week. So I'm going to save short term. I think that was it. But I won't be shocked if a couple months from now we make new highs again. So I'm not the type of guy to call an all-time high and say that's it. But I do think short term for both the miners and gold, that might have been a high that sticks for a bit.
GLD was how you shorted gold. Talk about that trade.
The Ultra.
Oh, the GLL. Right. How did you, what was it? All right, I'm short here. I'm not long. And it was a great trade. Talk about it.
The entire world was getting out of the market. No one wanted to buy the Qs. So while I was buying the Qs, I said, listen, everyone's buying gold. And I don't know if you'd say it's like the cab driver told you to buy gold, but boy, it was crowded. Everyone is so comfortable buying gold. It's the only thing. And I think it was Morgan Stanley or JP Morgan were calling for 4,000 in a few months. And it's all CNBC talked about. And the RSI was at 78, notoriously high for gold. And I said, risk reward. This is something typically that I don't recommend your average retail trader get in front of a freight train, but this is where I've made money for 30 years when it gets this crazy. So I'm going to buy half. I'm going to hope the next morning gold is flying and it feels hopeless. And then I'm going to buy the other half. So that's what I did with GLL. I bought like 1050. And then the next morning it was like 1030, 1020. I filled the rest of the position and got lucky that day. Gold top, reverse, 2-3%. And GLL went from 10 to the 11s, and that was the trade.
All right. Our next question, what can you compare this market to? 2008? I don't think
No,
so.
I think only a schmuck would compare it to 2008 being
Yeah.
correct. I mean, and
Yeah.
I mean, this 2000 in 2008, I sent my girlfriend to Citibank to go take out 50 grand because I didn't know if it would be around.
Mhm. You're right. It's a different market.
If
So
you
is
think
there
this is
anything you
like
can compare
2008,
this?
like this is like a walk in the park. This is like cute.
Mhm.
Yeah. COVID was more scary. So that I wouldn't. No one in their right mind would compare the recent market to 2008. Now, if the price action eventually gets there, but we haven't even approached that right now.
Yeah.
I don't know
Would
what
you
I
is there
compare it.
anything to compare this to, or is this
Well,
just
technically,
another new
no.
environment
We
for
haven't seen
you?
tariffs like this in over 100 years.
Mhm.
So the answer is no. But in terms of price action, for a few moments, COVID, but didn't last very
Yeah.
long. Um,
Mhm.
I would say it was like a cute pullback. NASDAQ Qs 23, 24%. During the great bull market, we had like a 16% correction. So
Right.
SPY, SPX, what, 20, 21%, I think got to.
Yeah. We had that, like, really short bear market in 22, and then it
So
just so
2022 got to 35 or 40% drawdown. I mean,
mhm.
this is literally a walk in the park. I'm not saying people shouldn't lose money or making someone feel bad if they had a tough time, but it ain't 2008.
Yeah.
That was a time where I really questioned if who I banked with for 20 years would still exist, and who do you use for insurance if AIG goes under. And I bought Bear Stearns on a Friday for my girlfriend at 50, and that Sunday I had to explain to her that it was going out of business and being taken over for $2. I'm like, and I bought it at 50 on Friday. What the
Mhm.
F is wrong with me? How is Bear
Mhm.
Stearns going out of business and Lehman? So it's not remotely the same.
Yeah. There's been a lot of days in your morning call in the inner circle over the past few weeks where you've said there's just not a lot to do here, guys. We've had a great Monday, we've had a great Tuesday, but this Wednesday, or this Thursday, and we'll sit on our hands and wait and see. But there's been some definitely quieter days. And then on the days that there's a lot to do, you guys are all over it. You've got, the volatility is helping. How has it been for you to go from days of crazy trading to days of nothing to do to back to crazy trading, back to nothing to do? How's that been for
Speaking
you
really
and your
directly,
strategy?
I like it because
Yeah.
I've been waking up and buying and selling at 3 a.m. Texas time
Mhm.
a lot. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's wearing my
Good.
body down.
Good.
One weekend I
Good.
was working on Saturday, buying Sunday night. So I almost don't mind it. And then frankly, it's stressful. So on Monday, I really bought a lot of TQQ. I mean, it's not like I bought the bottom. I started to buy as the Qs hit like 434, 435, that went to like 428. And I'm buying and buying, and then got to figure out how big I want to be. And then I got to counsel people like, hey, I'm comfortable with this. I'm doing this, but other people are scared. So then to get a day where you're position long, right? You're net long and the market's going in your direction and you don't feel like chasing, like SOXL has been a favorite of mine. And last week on the pullback, after it rallied from 7s to 12, pulled back to the 8s, I bought some. Today it's almost 12. I'm just pumped that I made almost 40% in a stock. And do I want to buy more? No, but I'll just let it work for me and let it keep going. So I don't mind. Sometimes, you hear it, but it's true. Sometimes the most boring days are where you make the most money. Just don't get in your way.
Mm. We've had 3 Wednesdays. Is it 3 Wednesdays in a row now of big rallies?
Yeah, I
Or is
think
it 2?
Wednesday is,
3. The
yeah,
ninth. Yeah, Wednesday seems to
it's
be
become
the
the new
day.
Friday. Wednesday's the new Friday.
Yeah. So I guess we'll see next Wednesday if we
Yep.
get another big
All
tape
right, so I
bomb.
should go buy
And
calls.
yeah, buy calls for May.
Yeah. It won't work out great because we have all the days in
Just
between.
kidding, everyone. We are not advising anyone on trades to make today. All right. Another question: how far can this bear market rally go in the SPY? So it's a good chance to go over some of your levels that you're monitoring in the SPY, where you see things going
So
from
on the
here. We can talk about
Qs,
the Qs also.
yeah. So on
Yeah.
the Qs are where I focus a little bit more. I
Hmm.
said yesterday that I'm pretty sure we'll get above the 21 day. and actually challenged the recent highs at 465, 467. So we're at 465 right now. So that was always my plan. And I said, odds are we'll even get a little bit above and get to the 470s. I just don't think we'll get above the 50-day, which is up at 480. SPY is a bit the same. I thought, we'll probably challenge those highs on that crazy bounce. That's 548. And I think we'll get a bit higher. And I just don't think we'll get above 563. So as far as SPX, you can relate it to that. I highly doubt we're going to get above the 50-day in the near term, not long term, but I just think there's too much back and forth with China, although today is obviously getting better, which I have to catch up to when we're done with this call. But long story short, so far, I would think the 50 days would act as really strong resistance on both SPY and Qs.
All right. A little bit of a fun question. Somebody wants to know where they can get your glasses. David's glasses are his iconic look. And he's got an extra pair, I can see.
Yeah, I got one
on
for
your
the
desk
computer,
there.
one for the thing. So you can get them ready for this. People are laughing. So I used to buy these, like I have these fancy dumb glasses from Chrome Hearts and all these super expensive ones. And then one day I was in Ray-Ban and I was looking, my head's narrow, so I can't have these big glasses. So these glasses go like, see how they come in, they curve. So I saw them as sunglasses and I thought, those would be perfect eyeglasses. So
they're sunglasses.
They are Ray-Ban
originally.
Sunglasses that I just turned to eyeglasses that don't cost much money. I don't know, 150, 200 bucks, whatever they are. So Ray-Ban, go get them. Really easy to get.
All right, there we go. Now everyone knows. All right, you gave me your levels on the Qs and the SPY. I want to let you go, but real quickly, what are some setups that you actually like here? We're extended. We're up for the third day in a row. Day 3 of our rally, right? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah. So what do you like here, or do you like nothing?
So it's more longer term stuff because a lot of my stuff is working. So last we chatted, I said Immunome got disgustingly cheap and I had to be a buyer. And it was under 6. Now it's like 850. Stock's gone up kind of in a straight line, 70%. So on a dip into 7, I'd buy it in a heartbeat. Same thing with SOXL. I bought it Friday, Friday markets were closed. Thursday at like 850, 860. It's 1203 right now. But if you look at Lam Research numbers and if you look at Texas Instruments numbers, and I'm talking about guidance, given everything that's going on, the world is not falling apart like some thought. I think the semis are cheap. I've been saying for a while, I've been bearish and I was turning bullish. I think you want to look at SOX, if you're aggressive, SOXL on any pullbacks. In terms of earnings season, Meta's the one I'm staring at. Everyone is so kind of sure that they are going to get a drop off in advertising, mainly from China, and that could add up to billions of dollars in revenue. And if it doesn't, if they don't basically guide for that, the stock's really cheap and can rally 50, 70 points in a straight line. So I'm really focused on that report. Apple, not a fan of at all. Actually shorted some today right off the open for some quick money. So I would say Meta, I'm really focused on the earnings report because I think there's a lot. I think they can make up for that miss in earnings. I don't think they're going to be as bad as people think in terms of their guidance, but people are really expecting, tens of billions of dollars in advertising to drop off. So focus on that one. Still love Immunome. CEO has been a buyer at 1375, 100,000 shares, 775, 100,000 shares. So pull back again, I would like it. And I'm looking for an entrance to short gold again. Not in a rush, but pondering shorting gold. So I'd say that those are some of my focus ideas. I'll pay attention to the Amazon report, but I feel like Amazon might be a little tough going into the print. So that's some of what I'm looking at. And then finally, like CrowdStrike, not affected by tariffs the way Palantir isn't. And obviously in a macro business where it ain't changing. Like their business is going to only grow because it's a conceivable problem for the next decade that they're the leader in. So big fan of CrowdStrike on any dips as well, and we'll really pay attention to their earnings report.
Real quickly, I wanted to get your opinion on Nvidia. Definitely not the market leader it was currently. So is Nvidia done being the leader, or is it just taking a breather?
It is done being a leader right now. It's not done being a leader. It's the leader. It's so far ahead of all of its competition. But second or third stock I bought when we had that massive pullback, bought at 86, bought at 93, and got flat into 110. And I still think retail and too many people are addicted to it and think it has to lead the market. And it's led the market for over 2 years. I think it needs a break, maybe a prolonged one, but I think fundamentals are fine. I think valuation is fine. I think that charge puts a cloud over it, and it's just going to take some time to rebuild. And it might take 6 months to do so. It might just meander back at 115, 120, then back at 100, then back at 90. And I think if you want to buy a quality company that kind of has a big seat in the future of technology, yeah, you want to buy Nvidia on DEX. Just don't think it has to lead the market, because it looks like Palantir is going to lead. It looks like ServiceNow is going to lead. It looks like CrowdStrike's going to lead, and that's okay. Like, stocks can't lead forever. Sometimes they take a break.
Oh, I had myself muted. All right. Everyone who wants to get David's brand new free newsletter, you can go to t3live.com/DP. It's the Pulse. As I've mentioned multiple times in this call, he does a morning call every single day for the Inner Circle, and this newsletter is based on that morning call on Tuesday mornings. So again, you can go to t3live.com/DP. You'll get David's market analysis and plan and levels and all of that delivered directly to your inbox for free. So again, t3live.com/DP. David, I'll let you go catch up on that China news and everything else that's happened while we've been here for the past 30 minutes. Have a great rest of your trading day and week. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining all. Bye-bye.